There is a moment, and every man knows this moment, when something inside you wants to break. When the pressure builds, when the ground shifts under your feet, when someone pushes you past what you thought you could handle. And in that moment, the entire direction of your life can change, based on one decision. Do you let it show, or do you hold the line? The Stoics studied this question for centuries. Not because they were cold, not because they didn't feel pain, but because they understood something most men never learn. Weakness, shown at the wrong moment, in the wrong situation, to the wrong people, does not earn you sympathy. It earns you a target on your back. So today we are going to talk about 6 specific situations where the Stoics say you must never show weakness. Not because your feelings don't matter, but because your future matters more. Stay with me through every single one of these, because the last 2 are the ones most men completely get wrong, and it costs them everything. Marcus Aurelius was emperor of Rome. He commanded armies, governed millions, and carried the weight of an entire civilization on his shoulders. And yet, if you read his private journals, the book we now call Meditations, you will find a man who was constantly fighting battles inside his own mind. Grief, self-doubt, exhaustion, frustration. He felt all of it. But here is what separated Marcus from ordinary men. He never let the battlefield inside become visible on the outside. Not in court, not in war, not in front of his enemies. He wrote these words for himself alone, in private in the dark, because he knew that the moment a leader's inner chaos becomes public, chaos follows him everywhere he goes. That is the first and most fundamental lesson of Stoic strength. Strength is not the absence of struggle. Strength is the discipline to never let your struggle become a weapon that others can use against you. The first situation where you must never show weakness is in front of your enemies. This sounds obvious, but most men misunderstand what it actually means. It does not mean pretending you have no problems. It does not mean puffing your chest and lying about your situation. The Stoics were not interested in performance. What it means is this: your enemy is always watching, and not for the reasons you think. They are not watching to see if you are powerful. They are watching to see if you are breakable. The moment you show rage, panic, desperation, or fear in front of someone who wants to see you fall, you have handed them a roadmap. You have shown them exactly where to push. Seneca wrote that the wise man does not give his enemies the satisfaction of seeing him disturbed, because a disturbed man is a predictable man, and a predictable man is an easy man to defeat. The Stoic approach is to become unreadable, calm, steady, measured, not because you feel nothing, but because you have decided that your reaction belongs to you, and you are not giving it away for free. The second situation is during a negotiation. Whether it is a business deal, a salary conversation, a conflict with a partner, or a dispute with someone over something that matters, the moment you show how badly you need the outcome, you have already lost. The Stoics called this the discipline of desire. Epictetus, who was born a slave and rose to become one of the most respected philosophers in the ancient world, taught that the man who needs nothing has power over everything. That is not about being detached from life. It is about training yourself to want the right outcome without being consumed by the need for it. In any negotiation, desperation is visible. It leaks out through your words, your body language, the speed at which you speak, the way your voice rises, and whoever is sitting across from you will feel it and they will use it. The Stoic negotiator walks into every room with one invisible advantage: the genuine willingness to walk away, not as a tactic, as a trained mindset. Because when you truly do not need the deal more than the deal needs you, everything shifts in your favor. The third situation is in the face of failure. This one is harder than the others, because failure is not just painful, it is public. And in a world where everyone is watching, where every stumble can be seen and shared and commented on, the pressure to collapse under the fate of failure has never been greater. But the Stoics would look at this modern problem and give you a very old answer. They would say that how you respond to failure is not just a reflection of who you are, it is the actual construction of who you will become. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. This is not a motivational quote. It is a survival strategy. The man who breaks in public after failure teaches everyone around him, his competitors, his colleagues, his family, that he can be broken. But the man who absorbs the hit, stands straight, and gets back to work without drama, without excuse, without self-pity displayed for the world to see, that man becomes something else entirely. He becomes someone people trust with hard things. And that trust, built quietly over time, becomes the foundation of real power. The fourth situation is in front of your children. This is the one that hits differently, because your children are not watching you in the way your enemies watch you. They are not looking for weakness to exploit. They are looking for a map. They are watching you to learn what life is supposed to look like. How a man handles pressure. How a man treats failure. How a man carries himself when things are hard. The Stoics understood that virtue is not just practiced, it is transmitted. Epictetus wrote that it is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about events. And when a father falls apart in front of his children, when he rages, when he panics, when he crumbles visibly and repeatedly, he is teaching them that the world is a place where the right response to difficulty is collapse. But when a father holds steady, when he breathes, when he solves the problem quietly and moves forward, he is handing his children something no amount of money can buy. He is handing them a blueprint for resilience. You do not have to be perfect in front of your children, but you must never let them see that you have given up on yourself. Because the day they see that, something inside them gives up too. The fifth situation is in the middle of your greatest opportunity. Most people do not think about weakness in the context of success. They think weakness shows up in hard times. But the Stoics knew better. They knew that the most dangerous moment for a man is not when everything is falling apart. It is when everything is finally coming together. Because that is when arrogance walks in through the back door dressed like confidence. That is when men start celebrating too early, talking too much, showing all their cards, getting sloppy with the very discipline that created the opportunity in the first place. Seneca warned repeatedly about the corruption of prosperity. He wrote that wealth, success, and praise are harder tests of character than poverty and hardship, because hardship sharpens you, while success softens you when you are not paying attention. The Stoic approach to a great opportunity is the same as the approach to a great challenge. Stay quiet, stay hungry, stay humble, do the work, let the results do the talking. The man who stays disciplined at the top is rarer than the man who claws his way up from the bottom. And that rarity is worth more than the success itself. The sixth situation is the one most men never see coming. It is in front of yourself, in the private hours, in the moments when no one is watching, no one is judging, no one would ever know. The moments when you could quit and no one would blame you. When you could take the easier path and no one would call you weak. This is the situation the Stoics considered the most important of all, because they believed that character is not what you perform in public. It is what you practice in private. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations that a man should behave consistently whether he is being watched or not because of reputation, not because of image, but because consistency is the only thing that actually builds a man. Every time you show weakness to yourself, every time you negotiate with your own standards, lower the bar quietly in the dark, tell yourself that this once does not count. You are teaching your inner self what you are actually made of. And eventually, that private self becomes your public reality. The man who is strong in private does not have to try to be strong in public. It just flows out of him naturally because it is what he has built himself into when no one was looking. This is the message that ties all 6 of these situations together. Stoicism is not about suppressing your humanity. It is not about becoming stone cold or emotionally dead. The Stoics felt everything. Marcus grieved. Seneca feared. Epictetus suffered. But they each made the same decision over and over again, in different ways and in different circumstances. They decided that their inner world was theirs, and that they would not surrender it to pressure, to people, or to pain. Because the moment you give your composure away, the moment you let your emotions become a weapon in someone else's hands, you have made yourself smaller than you were meant to be. Strength is not a gift. It is a practice. It is built in the quiet moments before the hard ones arrive. It is built in the discipline of choosing, again and again, to hold the line. And here is what I want to ask you. Of these 6 situations, enemies, negotiation, failure, children, opportunity, and yourself, which one is the hardest for you right now? Because I genuinely want to know. Drop it in the comments below. Not because I am asking you to perform strength, but because naming it is the first step to owning it. And if this video made you think, if something in here hit different, share it with one person who needs to hear it. Not 1,000 people, just one. Because sometimes all it takes is the right words at the right moment to change the direction a man is heading. That is what the Stoics understood. And that is what I hope this gave you today.